Trust me, you don't want to be sleeping on this. An interview shoot is literally your bread and butter. You're legitimately going to be paid $2,500 for setting up a camera or two, setting up some basic lights, and letting a commercial client talk to the camera. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to day 9 of the 30-day video production challenge. Today, we're going to be talking about how to set up for an interview. We're going to be talking about how to actually set up for the most common request that you're going to be doing, how to get an image that looks just like this one. Basic light, one camera, and you're good to go. Let's talk about it. Typically, when it comes to a regular interview setup, I really only think about the bare essentials. Maybe 2 cameras if I want 2 different angles, and if they actually give me enough money to bring out a second person, and then potentially a 2 or 3 light setup, depending on the amount of space that I'm working with. So how do I go about planning an interview? Well, first things first, I do a little bit of location scouting. I need to see the actual location that we're going to be using so that I have a better visual of what the space actually looks like. How many lights am I going to be able to fit in here? Is there any natural light that we're going to have to combat potentially? Are the overhead lights ugly? Do I need to turn them all off and bring in a powerful enough light to be able to beam and light up the whole space? Video on that coming soon. All of these questions can be answered with your location scouting. Second thing second, I always look for a little bit of set design, some set dressing. It's boring just having a plain white wall as a background. Now there are a couple things that you can do. You can get a gobo so that you can make a light do a pretty pattern on the background. You can add colored lights to add some texture and some intrigue. There are a couple things that you can do. Just doing these little things will make it look more dynamic and will draw the eye directly to the person talking. Now, I know that's kind of counterintuitive. How is having a whole bunch of stuff in the background going to draw the eye to the person in the foreground? Well, if you have stuff in the background and that stuff is more blurry because of shallower depth of field, or you have another light that beams like a little rim light so it makes the person stand out from the background, you're going to be adding depth. And it's going to actually draw the eye to the person who is the most prominent, to the person who's in the foreground. So adding background elements actually, ironically, makes the person who you're interviewing stand out more when you combine it with other techniques. Now, we've gone over location scouting, we've gone over set design. What are we actually doing with the camera? Now, we are talking about a video production business. So that means that the client has to be able to afford the type of setup that we're going to be using. This all goes into the pre-production when I'm explaining the different options to my client. So for example, if we're doing a single camera setup, just like this, just me talking to camera, or if I was talking to an interviewer, me speaking, I'd want them set up this way, me speaking to an interviewer just like this, a regular interview type setup. That's going to just be one camera, it's just gonna be me, it's gonna be logistically a lot easier. I'm just gonna have a front light that's front lighting me. We're gonna be going over lighting in another video. I'm gonna have a rim light that provides just a little bit of light, just a kiss of light to help separate once again from the background. Bob's your uncle. We're good to go. Everything is all set from there. Now, if I'm going to have a second camera on site so that I can get a second angle, that's going to cost the client more money. That's going to take a little bit more planning, and I'm going to have a second person on site to man that second camera angle. You'll learn all about this in pre-production, which if you didn't see the video, is pretty good. You can go ahead and click on that card and watch that video on the pre-production phase and why that is very important. I think about the location, so location scouting, the set design, and I also think about the camera, how many cameras are we going to be using? What type of lighting are we going to be doing? Hang on, let's pause. Let's not forget about the most important. The audio. The audio is something that I also think about and is very important when it comes to figuring out your interview. How many actual microphones do you need? If there's one person, get a lav, get a boom. If there are 2 people, use 2 lavs and 2 booms. If there are 3 people, use 3 lavs and 3 booms. It can add up very quickly. But not only that, what does the space need treatment-wise to get rid of some of the echo? Do I need to bring sound blankets so that I can put them beside the talent just off of camera so that it reduces some of the reverb that's going on in the space? These are also questions that I think about when it comes to actually getting ready for a film interview. So let's add on the audio because, of course, audio is very important. I preach it all of the time. The audio is very important. So we do location scouting, set design, audio planning, as well as figuring out camera and some of the lighting, which we'll be talking about later. If I was trapped on an abandoned island and about to die and almost on my deathbed and still had to conduct one more interview, these are the 5 things that I would bring to make that interview easier.